start this. Hi, everyone, and welcome back from break. Let's see, I think a couple of us are still coming in. So, anyway, I'm here talking a little bit differently than the others because I don't have a platform of my own. Rather, I do research. I teach at the Zicklin School of Business, where I teach analytics courses. But I also, we also do a lot of work with nonprofits. Specifically this semester, I'm doing a bit of work with the Chamber Music America, and I'll be speaking there next month at an event in New York. And also Metropolitan and Museum of Art, which I'm going to speak about today. And finally, we're also speaking about Water Fire. It's an event in Providence. So anyway, I'll go on. So anyway, the subject of this, how this came to be is that I love the Met. I've been a long time going. I'm a sustaining member. And I also have access to analytics platforms. I have a book out on analytics. When I used to blog a lot, I was a prolific blogger. But these days, I'm more into writing and teaching. So the analytics platforms that I have are these days more focused on geolocation. I've spent a lot of time with the other types of analytics platforms, like the web analytics platforms, and I teach that at Baruch. We teach our students in the marketing program. We have a digital marketing program, and this is the marketing program, and I authored and teach these courses. There's a web analytics course that I teach usually with Adobe Analytics and Google Analytics. We bring in other analytics as well, and also do viral. And also we have a special topics course, which is an agency course where we're doing programmatic ad trading platforms. So actually right now, some of our students have been placed at MediaMath and Xaxis. And we did the first, I would call it, programmatic tour of various programmatic ad trading platforms, which gives us the targeting that people are wanting, as well as the monetization. But the programmatic space is kind of new. Most companies are preferring to train people from scratch because it's so new. And we wanted to create the opportunity for students to be able to do that. So we created a special topics course for that. We haven't gotten MediaMath's Terminal 1 yet, but we did enable us to, we started using that special topics class for other things, including the Metropolitan, Water Fire, where we data sifted a lot of accounts of people that came to the Water Fires events in Providence. We've been working with roulette.org in downtown Brooklyn to understand their opportunities. And also with the Met, I wanted to just focus on the Met today because I had a deck that was much larger than this one, and I felt like there was no way. I tested it out on my classes. I inflicted this deck on my classes and on friends, and I found that at about almost 100 slides, there was no way I could deliver that deck today, and that less is more. So I figured I'd just focus on the Met. Now, what I wanted to accomplish with the Met is being a sustaining member of the Met and loving the Met and spending some time there, increase the in-person engagement and membership of the Met using this data that we have. Also, the online presence of the Met's important, and understanding what that is important. And also amplifying the stories. And the stories, it's interesting. When I'm working with a PhD at Baruch, and we want to do research together on the audiences of the Met, but having a story about what's actually going on in the Met and who to approach at the Met, it's kind of like not that easy. Even though I'm there a lot, knowing what actually is going on is not always so easy. So I just happened to make the acquaintance of somebody that works there recently, and he was able to tell me a lot of the things that actually go on at the Met that he's observed. And we use the geo-social data to kind of find those themes in what's actually happening and measure them. So without that story, I think it would have been a lot harder for me to create this deck. So I don't think that anything I'm presenting here I could have done entirely on my own, that I see the work I do as very collaborative, and that I think that it's necessary to understand the story before you pull the analytics data, because otherwise you don't know what to match the data against. So with that being said, this was originally going to be 3 out of 3, but this is it for today. The museum study uses public data. This is data that I didn't go to the Met for this data. Basically, I got the data from the data that I pulled. So the Met hasn't officially seen this data. So I'm not saying that anybody at the Met would sanction or not sanction this data. This is data that we've pulled publicly, and theoretically, anyone with the right tools could have pulled this data. Okay. We have almost exactly a year of data, but I pulled 11 months of mostly Instagram and Pinterest data. I have a platform called Geophidia that I've been very friendly with the founders, so they have, among others, let me use their data, and I've had a recording on the Met for about almost since like November 14th of last year. So at that time, we've sifted. I couldn't even fit it all into one. It wouldn't load. It's so big. But we have basically about 56,000 accounts that we were able to sift, mostly Instagram and Twitter. By and large, Instagram being the easiest to pull. And these were people who did not shut off geolocation and didn't stop sharing their tweets. So if you have Twitter and you have geolocation on, but you also don't share your tweets, we wouldn't pick you up. And if you have Instagram, pretty much we would pick you up, unless you went out of your way not to be. Some of the other platforms, we don't pick up much Facebook, and we don't pick up much, we give a little bit of Picasa, if I'm pronouncing it right, and Flickr. But that's about it. So we don't get anything else. We don't get any LinkedIn. We don't get anything else. But even of what we get way more than anyone else gets. And the nice thing about this data is it's at the museum. So everybody that we see was actually there. And we know when they were there. And we largely know what they were looking at. And we actually know pretty much within 20 feet where they were, which is interesting because that gives you the context that a lot of the social data is missing. And that then allows you to do interesting things that you ordinarily wouldn't be able to do. Like, for example, one of the things that we want to do with this data, and I've been speaking to some friends of mine. I have a friend that's the head psychologist at Long Island College Jewish Hospital. I've been showing him this data and other data like this, data that he'd like to use for, things like Ebola tracking, things like that. But one of the things he saw is, and one of the things we want to do is use the Big Five personality theory to look at the predominance of openness as a characteristic of art and of people that would make you more likely to want to receive a marketing message. Now, there's been a lot of research around the Big Five ocean theory. There was a big UK study in 2007 with like 100,000 respondents. There's been a lot of research that's extensible across different populations and different languages that supports the Big Five theory. So an important part of our further research would be tying in the Big Five theory. There's some APIs from Cambridge that tie in Facebook to the Big Five theory and give you those characteristics based out of likes on Facebook. Unfortunately, in order to do that with this data, we'd probably have to data enrich it, which we've done with the water fire data. If you want to spend enough time, you can cross-link a lot of these accounts to their Facebook equivalents and then run against that. And then the thing that we see a lot of is selfies. And so we try to qualify how many are happening. My friend says that there's got to be at least 50 a day that he just sees personally, but I mean, not 50, several times more than that. But I was able to pick up approximately 50 selfies a day at the Met that happen that are documented selfies. And if we do that by a year, that's about 21,000 selfies, which we could actually do quite some interesting stuff. Because my feeling is anytime someone stands in front of a piece of work and says, like, they go against Rembrandt, who's the kings of selfies, and they picture themselves against Rembrandt, that's saying something. Or if they're going against a pharaoh and in the back, that says something. I think that's important, and that's a signal for something. What it is, we're not quite sure yet, but it's a signal for something. Because they could engage with almost anything in the museum, but they chose to engage with that. And if they walked in the room and there was 100 objects they could engage with, and they engaged with that one object, to me that says that there's a choice algorithm there that could be done. Like, why did they choose that one and not the others? So I think, so of course with personality, I guess the top here is cut off, but no matter. We see a lot of this kind of behavior. One of my students translated that Japanese in the back there to say just the end of the summer. This guy's picturing himself against the pharaoh, so we know that he cares about pharaoh. Somehow he thinks of something. There's a grandeur there that he cares about. That's why he puts himself there. And this person, I've done this myself. I've stood in front of that mirror and I pictured myself, and it's an interesting picture. We see a lot of people against the Frank Stella. They love to wear these plaid kind of outfits against the Frank Stella kind of painting or that's down in the Met. Anyway, going on, here's the Met, here's our data. This was an Instagram photo that someone took. I saw this, I pulled it out of the geo feed, and stuck it and gave them credit. Now, my contention is that the real art isn't so much what's in the museum, it's what happens when people interact with it. I mean, I love art, and I've gone to the museum for, I'm embarrassed to say how long I've been on and off going to the museum. And this museum in particular I love more than any other, and I've been to a lot of the big ones in Europe and here, but the Met's always been my home. And one of the things that's kind of interesting is that there's a lot of why are things in the museum, and why do people care about those things, and what's the value of things? And so that's all interesting, and I have a lot of theories about that. But what I really find interesting, especially with the advent of social media, is the passion and the creativity of the people when they come in interaction, the things they say, the expressions on their face, the life that comes out of this, out of them, seems to me where the real art at the museum really is. The art in the museum is the people who come to it and how they interact with the art. That's the real thing. And social media gives us the ability to see some of that, perhaps in ways that even the Met can't see it. Now, my friend, who, because he's still working at the Met, is a little sensitive about maybe having himself credited, said that he had noticed 16 persistent themes, and that very recently told me that. So I had to kind of like write them all down and said, okay, well, these are the things that in the so many years that you've been working at the Met that you've seen. These people do these things. So let's see how we can find that in the social data. And the Temple of Dendor seems to be one big one, the rooftop bar, and some of these, I'm not going to read them all out, but these are things that people do at the museum. These are 16. There may be 60 things, other things that people do that are also memes and things that happen there, but these are 16 things that he identified, and that gave me something to go on. I mean, if I hadn't had that, I don't know what I would use. So I did. So we have that. And so estimate this. Now, how come that's not showing up? There's an image there and it doesn't even show up. Okay. Estimated story volume. Well, I don't know. All I can tell you is that I had a nice slide there that for some reason doesn't show up. We were able to break this down based on verbatim, and we saw that there's actually about 24% of all of this stuff. We were able to do something with estimating, and I guess I don't know why it's not showing up. We were able to see about 24% goes to the rooftop bar. That seems to be the most popular thing. And that thing's only open up 6 months of the year. It just closed. There's a breakdown, but unfortunately it's not showing up, so I can't do anything about that. But as far as how often people come to the Met, with the geosocial data, we were able to pull the 11 months and able to see that 86% of the visitors came once. And I take that to be mostly tourists and obligatory school visits. Now this is people who checked in or did something at the Met. So to say that this is representative of everybody, I wouldn't necessarily want to say that this is representative of everyone, but I think that there's enough data to say that this could be representative of everyone. But I won't go out and say that 86% of the 6 million people that the Met claims it gets a year only came once. But I think it's probably a safe assumption to say this is probably not too far off from the truth. And that the 2 to 5 visits, which this is gray, blue-gray, is 14%. And what that translates to. And then everything else is minuscule, really very small. Now this was data that we were able to pull, again, from the geofeed and correlate this person came on these days, and I didn't even bother looking at the time, and but just counting the instances of unique individuals. And some of these people might have posted in multiple accounts. Like sometimes I will check in on Swam, and it'll also give me a check-in it'll also do a tweet on Twitter. So it could be there's a little bit of duplication here, But just to go back there was 56,139 unique IDs across these channels, and maybe there's a little bit of duplication in there. And then if we break this down for the other slide I want to show, we had about 46,643 visitors. That's unique accounts, which is the 86%. And that would correlate to the 4.6 million that they say they have. Now, the 2 to 5 visits, that was the 2246, and that's like 13.5%. If we made a match, that would be about $250,000, $750,000. But of course, because this is 2 to 5 visits, it's possible that that $250,000 that the Met thinks it's getting is really less, because they're coming back over and over again. And then the 6 to 10 visits, 176. Which is less than 1%. These are regular. This would correspond with Quantcast fanatic fans. And then the 10 to 20 visits, well, I'd be in there and more. 67 visitors came that often. Most of these people in the last two, and the 22 are employees or vendors, almost entirely. So anybody that's coming that often is either a vendor or an employee or someone maybe like me, but even comes more than me. Now, when we broke this data down in a spreadsheet, I could actually look at these accounts, and I just created a pivot table to see how many times. We know Museum Hack is popular. They do little tours. I know who they are because I've seen them, and they came 63 times to the Met. So that's interesting that these people came, shows engagement. And also, anybody that's here is engaged. And the fact that they came is a statement of effort. So, and it's also a statement of interest. So it's a signal. So any list like this is a qualified list. This is not just your random kind of Twitter, Instagram list an academic gets from Twitter. This is a list of people that we know were at the museum and came several times. So there's something about these people that would be worth further study. Now with the counts, again, 47, most of them were Instagram and Twitter, the accounts captured. The verbatim, I guess, most would do an average of 2 posts, more or less. Again, we got a little bit of Flickr, a little Picasso, a little YouTube. And now let's look at the themes at the Met. Again, this gets cut off, but no worry. Temple of Dendur. Now, if users who don't know what the Temple of Dendur is, the Temple of Dendur is this gift that the Met got, the United States got in 1976 or something like that. They took this old temple around the time of Mark Antony, and they build a pavilion for it, and it's not that much to look at, but the Met gives swanky parties there sometimes at night. You know, they get a lot of private functions there, and they light it up, and it's got beautiful light that comes in it. And my friend contends that this is an area that a lot of people go to bring their family to kind of picnic on it. It's inside, and as you see, we found that. And it's a little scene in the temple there. Now, we found with the geofeed data that Friday was the most popular time at 4 to 7 p.m. And that also makes, the museums open late on Friday and Saturday night, so that makes sense. And also the fact that as the light comes into the big windows at a certain way, where it would be attractive to be there between 4 and 7, especially, there are things you could do with that. And these are other times where people come. Now, one of the things that we know in web analytics and social media analytics is that we know that essentially, I only got 9 minutes left, I better rush. There's a lot more traffic that we don't capture with keywords. The people at Venue Labs, who are friends of mine, had put out a local data gap paper that said that there was 5 times more that we don't capture with keywords than what we do. I would say that's true. Based on what I saw at Dendor, there was at least 5 or 6 times more people taking pictures and making references to the Temple of Dendor than any keyword query I could have ever put together, which is very sobering thought about the efficacy of keyword-based tools. Not so much for search, because that's identified need, but for social, yes. I think that there is a definite issue with using keyword-based social tools. Not that I don't use them, I just think that there are problems with them. Rooftop bar, people love to feel important and go up there. And the best time, again, is Friday night, but the other time when it's open, and these are what people do. There's a members room where people like to go and eat who are members. I think it's $68 for a price-fixed meal and up. And most of the people there are taking pictures of the food. Rembrandt and Vermeer are popular. You see people wanting to go to Rembrandt and Vermeer, so these are some of the selected themes. And I don't think there's any pattern here. I think people go there because you're interested. There's children. That's important to the museum. And a father and son endearing photo. This actually Instagram photo said Metropolitan Museum of Kid was the thing. But there's a lot of idea that the Met wants to insinuate itself and generate this sort of salmon paradigm where people are going to keep on coming back and wanting to come back. Because for educational institutions and nonprofit institutions, it's not always about money, it's about being important, being present in a person's life in the different ways, and how do you measure that? There's a lot of this kind of mocking behavior of sculptures that happens at the Met. And we could see that here in the Roman wing. And people often like to go and look at the coins and count the coins and sometimes pull out coins and put back coins in. That's kind of interesting because I never knew that you could take a coin out of there. I always thought you put coins in and the Met would just collect them, but apparently people do actually, and sometimes they'll even let you exchange them. Now, there's something else there. A lot of people like to go and mock the fallacies of the statues. And these are some of the more tasteful ones. I had some that were more untasteful, but I could see that this data really is there. Everything that my friend told me actually is happening. I mean, and I could find this not too hard because once I had the context, it was much easier. This was so much better than using any kind of social analytics tool for this kind of thing because I had everything in front of me. Now it was just a matter of knowing what to look for and knowing what to do with it. So, Teens Take Over the Met was an event that happened last month. The Greek and Roman wing, again, this is popular mostly from like 11 to like 5 p.m. And again, Friday's going to do better. Another thing that was puzzling my friend was that he would notice that people were talking about Gossip Girl a lot on the steps and like understand what that was. And then we did some research and found out that Gossip Girl was this show that was very popular. A lot of it took place right around the same area, and some of the scenes in Gossip Girl took place in the Met. Some of them outside the steps and some inside. And I think the finale, the person got married in the Met. So the hierarchy of how people sit on the steps, supposedly, as someone told, because I haven't watched Gossip Girl, has to do with the how social standing, of where you are in that hierarchy. And then the selfie behavior. We see a lot of selfie behavior and how people decide to take selfies is extremely important in saying something about how they want to be seen. Something that certainly should be a lot of research. And then there's the bathroom selfie. Now, there seems to be, I noticed it at FIT, I noticed it at Baruch, and everywhere I monitor, there are people that love to go in the bathrooms and take selfies of themselves. And I personally think there could be a whole book on bathroom selfies because I think that there's just such interest. And even I took a bathroom selfie of myself and my girlfriend last night because it gives you a nice mirror. But having said that, it's kind of interesting to see the bathroom selfies at the Met happening. And now we took this qualified list of people, this list of people that came back 2 to 12 times. We took 2 to 12 times. And I went to my friends at Stats Social, and I took that list of data, and I asked them to analyze it for what they could analyze to see, is there anything about this list of people that come 2 to 12 times that is different than maybe anybody else? And honestly, most people, most of the platforms, including them, look at followers, which I always felt was somewhat flawed. I think I would be much more interested if it was following rather than followers, because that would be an obvious choice of the user rather than the followers. But I'll take what I can get. And in this case, followers says that 75% were female. These are the ages. And the top 10, obviously New York is going to be over-indexing because it's... and they all like, a lot of them, I guess, 9 times more than the average that like art history, and they're 3 times more likely to have traveled to France or wanted to go to France. They also like fabric and design, and a lot of them, this is a hipster thing that comes up in Stats Social, and I was looking, actually is a hipster blog, and 82nd and 5th is a hipster blog, and one of the bloggers' name is Hipster. I don't know, so I mean, the data says that hipster comes up more. And also they like Perrier. These people who come 2 to 12 times like Perrier, and they like something they probably can't afford, which is, how do I pronounce it? Does anyone know how to pronounce that? Viv? How do you pronounce it? Viv Crochet? Does anybody here know how to pronounce that? Is it a bottle? It's Viv Clickra? No. Okay, well anyway, I'm not French, know how to pronounce that. That's like $600 a bottle. And our data said that majority of people that came 2 to 12 times made less than $50,000. I mean, I'm not saying that's 100%, but probably this is aspirational. These people would like to have a drink of that, but they probably can't afford it. And anyway, the other thing we wanted to do was look at these sites in terms of their online presence. And so this is a methodology I've come up with. I've written about it at ClickZ called the Analytics Selfie, where we compared, in this case, we compared the Metropolitan MoMA and the British Museum for their presences. And you can use these to kind of say, and these are not absolute, these are soft assessments, but how could you improve and how could you be better in the future? And then finally, what do you do with it? So now that we have the data, how do we act on this data? Well, Temple of Dendor, we could have regular music events at 4 to 7 p.m. Let's do placemaking. Let's make it special. The Met does Christmas lightings. They charge a couple $100 for the members to come. They could, do things to make it more special. They could see the trends that the data shows, and in some cases where there's natural light that comes in the museum, and there's 4 places, I'm told, where it does, they could do something to create special events to draw people there. Now, the rooftop bar is very popular, so we know that 25%, which you didn't see that slide, actually, they like to go up there, but it's only open 6 months of the year. Wouldn't it be nice if they put a bubble on it and let people come up there all year round? It'd be nice if you could do that. The Met has these cooking things. They like that. So, maybe they should do something with cooking, a special recipe that can be available, not only at the museum, since they care about everybody thinking about them even when they're not there. Maybe they could have something they can make that you could buy in a supermarket, you could buy somewhere. The other thing is Rembrandts. Since selfies are so popular, why not invite people to friend a painting, friend a selfie, take a selfie, and then they can moderate that with a hashtag. There's all this great content at the Met. Why not use it? Also, the Met's done a lot to, oh, well, I have gone over. Damn. Okay, well, anyway, I'll just finish up here. The Met's done a lot to do things for education, but they've not done any online education, where MoMA has. And, it seems to me like if they want to, they could go that direction. They also allow people like to date there, so, and this is more controversial, maybe the Met could be a matchmaker there a little bit too, I don't know. The Gossip Girl is a very popular theme. Maybe they should inscribe, one of my students said, maybe they should inscribe a step on the Met and say, this is where Gossip Girl sat, and maybe they could get other places in the museum. Since Gossip Girl is attracting people and sitting there, why not use it if people want it? And then bathroom selfies. My students were saying, well, since people are doing it, why don't they put a picture of a painting up there and let themselves be photographed against it? That way, at least give them something to do it with. So anyway, the idea that why we did this is to study the affinities of people so we could better understand them and understand what they wanted. This would then increase engagement. If the Met has an app, if they wanted to use iBeacon, they could go around and do a lot more. They haven't done that yet. Bloomberg pays for it, but they should do it. And then finally, if they wanted to, their free Wi-Fi, they could actually pick up a lot of data off that free Wi-Fi with demographics and so on. So that's the things that they could do with it. That's me, in case you want to contact me. I'm certainly always interested in collaborations. We've got students and resources and ways we are already working with some institutions and would like to further that. And then finally, here's a bunch of people. I don't think I could have ever come up with this stuff entirely on my own, so I don't ever make credit. That I just like to contain it. So thank you very much, and I'm around today and tomorrow if you want to speak to me. Cheers.
We're going to skip questions for this presentation and